Welcome to Lesson 1-9, Order of Operations. Today's objectives: I will be able to use the order of operations correctly, and I will be able to use the distributive property. So today we're just going to talk about how to use the order of operations, and then in our next lesson we're going to talk about how to put them into use in real-world situations. All right, in your vocabulary, the first term that you have for today is order of operations. The order of operations is the specific order in which you use all the different operations to correctly solve an expression. Now, operations in math are your multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, exponents. Okay? So whatever you are doing is considered your operation. All right, and for your example, we're just going to write down PEMDAS. You do not have to write down this extra. I know that there's not a lot of space, so I just want you to write down PEMDAS. And the distributive property. The distributive property is when multiplying a number by a quantity, we can share that number with each value in the other quantity. I know this is very confusing. Okay, so you just have to think of the word distributive and how distribute is in it, and distribute means to give out or to share. And so when we use the distributive property, we're sharing a number with other numbers. Right, so I want you to fit this in for your example. So if you have 4 times 24, you can turn it into 4 times the quantity 20 plus 4. And then that turns it into 4 times 20 plus 4 times 4. Make sure to get all this written down, and then when we get a chance at the end of the lesson, we'll talk more about how this works. Okay, but first we're going to talk about PEMDAS and what it means. Some of us might have heard of PEMDAS before, and some of us might have heard, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." We use these two things to help us remember what the order of operations are. What they really stand for is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Now you'll notice in your notes I gave you space. I want you to write down all of that. So everything that was on top and everything that was below. One of the most important things to remember with the order of operations is that there's actually only 4 steps. The first being parentheses, the second being exponents, the third is multiplication and division, and the fourth is addition and subtraction. So how this works is when you look at a problem, you have to do all the operations inside the parentheses. Now, if inside the parentheses there are multiple operations, you follow the order of operations again. So you get inside the order of, or inside the parentheses and you say, okay, do I have any more parentheses? Do I have any exponents in my parentheses? And so on and so forth. After you've completed the parentheses, you move on to exponents. Once you've completed any exponents, you move on to multiplication and division from left to right. So what this means is if I have 4 times 2 divided by 1, I would have to do 4 times 2 first divided by 1 second. Or if I had 4 divided by 2 times 1, I would have to do 4 divided by 2 first, then multiply it by 1. It does make a difference. It will change your answer. And then the same thing with addition and subtraction. You work your way from left to right. So we'll do this first example together. Now you'll notice I gave you a little bit of space off to the side. I actually would like you to copy these steps down so I can show you what I'm looking for when you're showing your work and what's going to help you best keep your work organized. So that way, if you're having any troubles, I can easily find where the problems are occurring. All right, so the first thing we need to look for, because it's PEMDAS, is parentheses. So what do we do first? If you said the parentheses, you're correct. Okay, and because 7 plus 3 is in the parentheses, that's what we do first. So 7 plus 3 gives us 10. Notice I brought down the 60, the division, I brought down what 7 plus 3 gave me, and then the plus 3. I bring down everything that I didn't use. I don't do multiple steps at a time because that's where students make a lot of mistakes. They try to do too much at once, and then they end up doing something before they should have or with incorrect numbers. So now I look and what do I do next? Well, I don't have any exponents, and I don't have any more parentheses. And so now I have to look for any multiplication or division. And I do have division, so the next thing I would do would be 60 divided by 10, which gives me 6, and then I bring down my plus 3. And now there should be no question here of what I have to do next because all I have left is addition, and I do 6 plus 3, which gives me 9. Now, you don't need to put these lines in here. I put them in here just to show you what I did and what we were doing as we go along. If you want to do this, you are more than welcome to. I know it helps some students keep track of what they've used and what they've done. All right, so again, we're going to try the first one together, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to do a problem at a time, and then we're going to go over and check your answers. So for the first problem, again, anywhere that you want to, even if it's on a test, if you want to write down PEMDAS just to remind yourself, that's absolutely okay. I will never write it down. This is for you to memorize. But if you do this for yourself, that is absolutely okay. So I look for parentheses. I have parentheses, and inside my parentheses, I have subtraction. So I have to do that first. And 10 minus 4 is going to give me 6. I haven't used the 2 yet, and I haven't used the addition sign yet, so I bring both of those down. The only step I have left is 2 plus 6, which gives me 8. Right, so now it's your turn. What I would like you to do is I would like you to use the order of operations to solve this problem, and then when you come back, we'll go over your answer and try the next one. Alright, so because we have parentheses, you should have done the 8 plus 4 first, which gave you 12. Bring down the 7 and the 3, the addition and multiplication. Multiplication is next. 3 times 12 gave us 36. Bring down the plus 7, and that gave us 43. If you didn't get this correct, I'd like you to check my work against yours and find where you made your mistake. You can change it, but I want you to learn from what your mistake was. Okay, the next thing I'd like you to try, once you've figured this one out, is number 3. When you come back, we'll go over that answer. All right, for number 3, I know a lot of students make the mistake of doing multiplication first. Remember, multiplication and division are the same step. So if division comes first when we're reading from left to right, which in this case it does, then that is what you have to do first. So you should have done 36 divided by 4, which gives you 9. Bring down the times 2, which gives you 18. A lot of students make a mistake and do 4 times 2 here and end up doing 36 times 8, or divided by 8, and that is incorrect. Now moving on to number 4. All right, so for number 4, the first thing you needed to do was parentheses. Now, there are 2 operations here in the parentheses. So we have to go through the order of operations again. Multiplication comes before addition in the order of operations, so that's what we do first. We do 8 times 2, which gives us 16. Bring down everything we didn't use. The 20, the subtraction, we're still bringing down the parentheses because we're not done inside of them yet. We still have the 2, the addition, and the 16 inside those parentheses, and then a plus 4 on the outside. Now I do parentheses again since I'm not done, and I do 2 plus 16, which gives me 18. Bring down the 20, the subtraction, and the plus 4. 20 minus 18 gives me 2. Bring down the plus 4 that I haven't used yet, And 2 plus 4 gives me 6. Right? And then you have this last problem, number 5. Go ahead and pause. When you come back, we'll go over that one. All right, so we had to do 12 divided by 4 first because it is inside parentheses. Now, when you see a 3 next to, or a number next to a parentheses, that means multiplication. So this means 3 times whatever we ended up with in here. And since we ended up with 3, we did 3 times 3 gives us 9. And we bring down the minus 2. 9 minus 2 gives us 7. All right, so now based on what we know about the order of operations, I want you to think. If we use the order of operations, what would we do next to start solving this problem? If you said add the 4 and the 10, you'd be correct. And then we would do 4 times 14. And a lot of us would go over to the side and do 14 times 4. And this is all well and good, but if you don't have a pencil and a piece of paper, we like to make it easier on ourselves. Okay, so how can we make this a little easier on ourselves? We can use the distributive property. So instead of doing 4 plus 10 first, since we have this multiplication out here, we can actually distribute or share this 4 with the 4 and the 10. Right? So you kind of think of the distributive property as kind of like a paper boy. So here's your paper boy, and he is going to give a newspaper to the 4 and give a newspaper to the 10. Okay, he shares it with everybody. So in this case, we would end up with 4 times 4. And then because we're sharing with the 10 as well, we end up with 4 times 10. But then you have to remember, we're adding those two things. So we have to add the 4 times 4 plus the 4 times 10. We know 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 10 is 40. We can quickly add those together and get 56. Now, if you multiply the traditional way, 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5. You'll notice that we get the same answer. The distributive property makes math a lot easier for us to do mentally. I know it's a little bit confusing, so we're going to practice with it. So I really want you to make sure that when you have the opportunity, you pause the video and you really try and see what you come up with. We always have the opportunity to go back, rewatch the video, and to practice more, not only in the notes, but when you get to school. Okay, so let's try this with 4 times 23. Since we have the 23 already, we have to break apart the 23. So we know that the 2 is actually 2 tens. So the 2 is actually worth 20. So this is where you want to know the value of the number. So the 20 is worth, or the 2 is worth 20, and the 3 is worth 3. So whatever we put in our parentheses has to add together to make this number. Right? And then we keep the 4 and the multiplication on the outside. Now the reason we have to put parentheses here is to remind us that we're sharing, okay, and to make sure that we remember to add. Some people don't want to put it there. I like to because it helps me remember what I'm doing. Right, and then we're going to share the 4 with the 20 and with the 3, and we're going to share them using addition. So I'm going to share the 4 with the 20. I'm going to share the 4 with the 3, and then I'm going to add those two things together. 4 times 20, well 4 times 2 gives me 8. I have 1 0, so I add 1 0 to the end. Bring down the addition sign. 4 times 3 gives me 12. 12 plus 80 gives me 92. Alright, so you have 3 problems here. What I would like you to do is I would like you to please pause the video, try them on your own, and when you come back, we will go over your answers. Alright, now that you've come back, we should have split the 74 into 70 plus 4, and then we're still sharing that with the times 8. You end up with 70 times 8 plus 8 times 4. You get 560 plus 32, and you get 592. Okay, break the 16 into 10 plus 6. Multiply that whole thing by 5. You're sharing the 5 with the 6 and with the 10. You get 10 times 5 plus 10 times 6. Nice and easy for you. We get 50 plus 60. 5 plus 6 is 11. And those zeros added together give us 0. And then 21 we can break into 20 plus 1 times 9. Share the 9 with the 1. Share the 9 with the 20. I get 180 plus 9 gives me 189. Alright, so what I would like you to do in your post tonight on Edmodo, I'm going to give you a couple of problems to do. The first problem you're going to solve for me. You are going to solve okay, so there's the first problem I would like you to solve. And the second problem I would like you to solve, and I'd actually like you to write it out for me because you're using the distributive property. So you can use the, for the multiplication sign, do not use an X. You can use the asterisk, which is on your 8 key. And I want you to show me how you would do 5 times 28. So I want you to show me how you would break it apart, what the multiplication would be. Just like you showed me here, I want you to show me on Edmodo. Remember to post your answer as a reply to the video post, and you only need to do so once. So both of these answers should be in one post. If you have any questions, feel free to post them to Edmodo or write them down and come ready with them for class tomorrow.